Okay. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is good to be with everyone this Shabbat. It's so bizarre to have Shabbat technically start so late, but to be together when there's light outside. Like, oh, it's still the afternoon. We still have time. But we will welcome Shabbat a little early. It never hurts to be the Shabbat Queen fan club. We go out to see her. We go out to greet her. We go out early. We wait in the lines. We're not quite as dedicated as Taylor Swift fans, but we are here and we are ready to celebrate Shabbat and sing all of her songs. So we are going to get started with a McCoon to help us to get into the spirit. So let's take a moment to take a deep breath in and out. Root ourselves at this moment. Listen, dear self. Remember to breathe. Remember to fill your chest with the sweet taste of living, to fill your heart with a gentle gift of peace. The breath of God surrounds you. Let it flow through you. Let the pulse of the universe beat with you. Let it enliven you. Invite your inhale, the willingness of this moment. Release your exhale and surrender to being. Fill your lungs, feel them, feed them, heal them, and you will know the majesty of now and the mystery of forever. A poem by Alden Solovey. It's my pleasure to invite Beth Ehrlich to help us light the Shabbat candles and to welcome in Shabbat. We are on page 120 and 121.
Just me? Is it somebody else? As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'haflikneu shel Shabbos.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We are on page 138 for the words of Lecha Dodi as we welcome the Shabbat bride. Shalom, Ateret Balaam, Gam Besimcha Uvtzohalam, Toch Emunei Am Segula, Boi Chalam, Lecha Dodi, Birkat Kalam. Please be seated. And we continue on page 142 for the words of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzeitzchem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. We're on page 145, and it's my pleasure to invite Michelle Eisenbruck to share with us a reading.
Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways.
We're on page 146 for the words of Baruch Hu. Please rise in the ways that you are able. On page 151. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. On the next page. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. We turn to page 157. It's my pleasure to invite Ted Bressler to share with us a reading.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternal Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the long and winding road to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
We're on page 158 for the words of Mi Chamocha. We sing the words of Mi Chamocha as words of gratitude for miracles, big and small. And what is more miraculous than sleep? As someone who has sometimes had a few nights when she got a little bit more sleep, it is absolutely a miracle when you finally get that way and when you finally are able to fall asleep. And so we hope for all of those who are experiencing sleeplessness for whatever reason that they are able this Shabbat to receive the rest that they need, to receive the strength that they need from that sleep, that they receive the well-being and the rejuvenation that they need from that sleep, and that they wake up tomorrow refreshed and renewed and excited for whatever it is that tomorrow brings. So we turn to page 160, and we ask God to spread over a shelter of peace over all of us, over all the people Israel, over Jerusalem, and over the world. Baruch atah, atah Adonai, haborei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah, atah Adonai, haborei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo We continue with the tefillah, the core part of our service, as we turn to page 164, and we rise in all the ways that we are able. Adonai, sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayim emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'emanata lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehallelujah selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please take a moment for your own personal prayer, and once your silent prayer is complete, feel free to be seated. Before we sing Oseh Shalom, I want to share a quote written by Martin Buber. Help me perfect my ways of loving and caring. Inspire me to make myself whole so that I may honor your name. Create a world of justice and peace. Oseh Shalom, Shalom b'mromav, u'ya'aseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. U'ya'aseh Shalom aleinu. When you get told what to do, raise your hand if you immediately feel the urge to do the opposite. How many of you didn't put your hand up because I just told you to raise your hand? And raise your hand if you're the one who starts wondering who that person is that they think that they can tell you what to do. I'm definitely one of those people. For all of my fellow rebels out there, this week's Torah portion can be a hard one to swallow. But the intricacies of the language can help us to have important insight on where the boundaries are between healthy and even holy pushback versus harmful division sowing and power grabbing. This week's Torah portion, we read from Parshat Korach. Korach is a Levite, meaning that he's not a priest and he's not, the head person in charge of all decision making, but he is among those whose responsibility it is to perform the duties of Adonai's tabernacle and to minister to the community and to serve the members of the community. At the beginning of this week's Torah portion, we read that Korach brings along Datan and Aviram, sons of Eliav, and On, son of Peleth, and 250 of their closest Israelite friends, including among them chieftains of the community, chosen in the assembly, and men of repute, to rise up against Moses and Aaron. We read in Numbers chapter 16, verse 3, that they say, "You have gone too far, for all the community are holy, all of them, and Adonai is in their midst. Why do you raise yourself above Adonai's congregation?" And for many of us, it's hard to read that question and not think to ourselves, heck yeah, right on. Nobody should be higher than anybody else. And this statement seems like it gets at the heart of a critique of elitism and injustice, and why some people think that they have a different standard than the rest of us. And so it's really easy to be pulled into this rhetoric. Yet, as with all political rhetoric, we have to make sure that we keep track of all of the context before we start joining in and shouting along. And these pieces of context on their own might not mean much. They may not seem on their own that meaningful one way or another as singular data points. But when we bring them together, this paints a clearer picture for us, and one that paints a cautionary tale. The three big pieces of context that I want to highlight this evening are as such. Context piece number 1. The Israelites are in the desert, and they are unsure and restless. They are receiving all of these new laws and rules, and they are scared of being in the wilderness, depending only on God for sustenance. And to be honest, plenty of what they're experiencing is truly unpleasant, and I would be complaining alongside them. They've been walking for days and days and days, and their feet probably hurt. And they probably just want a vacation day, or, to have a time when they're both not slaves and also, at a home with a couch, eating some milk and some honey, and wouldn't that be so wonderful? But that's not where they're at. They're in the middle of the desert. And even if they are surrounded by miracles, even if they eat manna for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they are provided water from Miriam's well, they're still encountering plenty of things that could put them off course. The people of Israel, whether they know it or not, are in an incredibly vulnerable moment. They are navigating a new stage of what it means to be a people, to be the people of Israel. And they are navigating what it means to be chosen by God as people who were formerly slaves of Pharaoh. That's context piece number 1. The people of Israel are vulnerable. Context piece number 2. Korach, Datan, and Aviram are all saying things that rile people up, that Am Yisrael has already historically bought into, regardless of the level of accuracy, in order to gain political points. Is it possible that Moses and Aaron sometimes act as though they are holier than thou? I can certainly imagine it. And to be honest, some of the times I read about Moses and Aaron, they're not particularly my favorite people either. Moses, that being said, didn't originally want the job or believe that he was the right person for it. He is not making commandments of his own accord. He is passing word on from God. And he regularly expresses to God how exhausting this position is to him. However, we've seen from the very beginning of the Exodus that the Israelites distrust Moses and Aaron's leadership, and how often they question Moses and wonder why he led the people out of Egypt like it was his idea in the first place. It's an easy first step. There's already mistrust. Additionally, later on in the chapter, Datan and Aviram refuse to meet with Moses, stating, "Is it not enough that you brought us from a land of milk and honey to have us die in the wilderness, that you would also lord it over us and rub it in our faces?" I don't know about you, but I would hardly call being slaves in Egypt anywhere equivalent to being in a land filled with milk and honey or having access to that milk and honey. Yet this is not the first time that we hear the Israelites wishing that they were back in Egypt rather than being in the wilderness. They are afraid and uncertain, and they wish to go back to what they know, even if it's filled with suffering. This statement reminds us of so many demagogues in world history who use a false nostalgia to gather support. Nostalgia for the past as a source of comfort, even if that past is actually incredibly troubled and has a significant amount of suffering tied in with it. They encourage us to make our countries great again, despite the fact that what we would be going back to wasn't great in the first place. But it works. Korach and Datan and Aviram are smart. They have listened to the words that resonate with the people around them. And some of the words are true. Perhaps it is that sometimes Moses and Aaron are acting a little holier than thou, but others of them are not. Egypt was not particularly a land filled with milk and honey for the Israelites. And they don't distinguish between the truth and the untruth. They chose the words that resonate with those who follow them, and those are the words that they repeat as they rise up against Moses and Aaron. And then they gather the 250 people who follow them, because it's a strategy that works. And sometimes it even works for some of us. How many of us have read that Torah portion and at first bought into it, right? So, context piece number 2. They don't distinguish between what's true and what's untrue. They only repeat what resonates. Context piece number 3. Korach, Datan, and Aviram use words that convey that they perceive leadership as inherently over the people rather than serving the people. They each have roles that serve the needs of the temple and the community. And they don't see any equivalences between this role, serving the tabernacle and serving Am Yisrael, to the roles that Moses and Aaron play for the same community and the same tabernacle. Korach, Datan, and Aviram are saying the right things about that all the people are holy, which is true, yet their perception of leadership is such that if they were to rise to those positions, they give no indication that they would act any differently, that they would not somehow act in a way that resembles the elitism or holier than thou spirit that they rebelled against. So context 3, they've given no meaningful no meaningful examples of how they would change if they rose to power. So context number 1, Am Yisrael is in a vulnerable place. Context 2, Korach, Datan, and Aviram are not distinguishing between what is true and what is untrue. They're only finding what are the words and what are the messages that rile people up, that get followers. And context 3, Datan, Aviram, and Korach show no meaningful examples that they are going to act any differently than what they are rebelling against. While it is in the Jewish spirit to debate and to critique, and in some cases even to rebel, this week's Torah portion teaches us that we must also be careful to not lean into rebelling for the sake of being rebellious. We must take note of the wider dynamics at play, the vulnerabilities, the level of honesty and truth, and whether true change seems to be part of the mission. Otherwise, we're just putting our community in danger. Cain Yehirat Zon, may this be God's will. With these words of Torah on our heart and on our mind, we think of those who are in need of healing at this moment. Healing of body, healing of spirit, healing of soul. If you are thinking of someone who is in need of healing at this time, if you're joining us on Zoom, please feel free to type their names in the chat. And if you are in person with us, please feel free to share their name aloud or in your heart as my hand passes over your section.
Sherry King, Greg King, Ann Honas, Judith Alexander, and myself. Sharon Smith, Adrian Brown, Greg Spiegel, Bruce Baldwin, and Heidi Wu.
Andrea Glass.
Howard Bressler.
My sister Jeannie, Ellen, Jerry Ann, and Marilyn Gill. Susan Ehrlich.
We'll pause a moment as our friends continue to add names to the chat. For all those names that we've said aloud, and those that we've written in the chat, and those that we keep in our hearts, we turn to page 371 for the words of Misha Berach. Avotenu, Nekor We continue on page 586 for the words of Aleinu. Please rise in the ways that you are able. Aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol, la'teit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad. Please be seated. We take a moment to think about those who are no longer with us on this earth, but remain with us in the way that we walk this earth and our memories of them. Please rise as your loved one's name is read. This Shabbat, we are remembering the yard sites of those whose yard sites occurred this past week. Evelyn Barg, remembered by Cheryl Cohen. Nachman Breitel, remembered by Larissa Krasnovskaya. Philip Ehrlich, father of Beth Ehrlich. Joseph Elfant, father of Betty Rogoff. Serena Leinkrum, mother of Robert Leinkrum. Daniel Levy, son of Lulu Levy and brother of Matthew Levy. And Alphonse Rothstein, father of Wanda Rothstein. We now invite all who are observing their first year of mourning to rise at this time. And we now rise as a community with our mourners as we turn to page 598 for the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei techol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. O set Yehi shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing, to which we say, Amen. Please be seated. It is now my pleasure to invite Cindy Monroe to share with us words of announcement. It may be the summer, but we have exciting things going on, even still.
Join Rabbi Zoe. That sounded wrong. Join Rabbi Zoe for Torah study this Sunday, June 25th at 11 a.m. on Zoom.
Oh, that's a lie. There's no Torah study.
Okay,
Sorry.
that was the first line.
Oh, sorry.
Summer's here, and next Shabbat is the last Shabbat of the month, which means it's time for Shabbarbecue.
Woohoo!
Join us on Friday, June 30th, for the first barbecue of the season. This will be an in-person only service starting at 6:30. Bring your own food to grill, non-dairy sides, drinks, desserts, and supplies. Shabbat Where You Are will be returning this July. There was a miscommunication on our weekly and the correction to it. While Shabbat services will be in person only for the month of July, there will still be an option for Shabbat blessings on Zoom before the services. Look for an email this Sunday with more information. On Friday, July 21st, we'll have a different kind of Shabbat experience. Come Shabbat with us at Fremont Street Eats. Watch the weekly for details coming soon. Join us on Sunday, August 6th at 2:30 for a town hall meeting. We're looking for input and leadership qualities that will best guide the next chapter of TBT as we begin a new rabbi search. This is an in-person only event. Contact Cheryl with questions or comments. Temple Beth Torah seeks to be a community accessible to all of its members. We're looking for volunteers to occasionally provide transportation to those needing rides to Shabbat services or other in-person programming. If you can help with this mitzvah, one time or more, please contact Terry at hevrahesed@bethtorah-fremont.org. Thank you to Karen Bresler and Michelle Eisenbrook for representing the worship committee tonight. And I should also say Alan as well. Thanks.
And Sean. And thank you to Cindy, who is our outgoing ed chair, but our incoming communications chair. And we are so grateful for all of the work that she does between those official positions and just all the other IT things that she does around the temple. We're so grateful for all that she does for our community. And also, I just want to note, as many of you received an email, first of all, I want to thank everyone who reached out to me to send condolences on behalf of my grandfather. It was really meaningful and just goes to show how warm and caring of a community you are. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you and to be here to be supported by you. And additionally, there was a different email that was sent out saying that this year, unfortunately, will be my last year at Temple Beth Torah in order for me to have more access to my family. But I want to, let you know just how important that Temple Beth Torah is to me and how special of a community that this is. It was not a decision that was made lightly. When I first arrived here, and really for so long, even after I began, I was bragging to my friends about how special of a community this is. So please know that each and every one of you continue to be incredibly special to me, and I'm grateful to be your rabbi. And we still have a year together. So this is not me starting a year of goodbyes. That's not what we're doing. We are going to continue on being excited and having exciting things going on. Temple Beth Torah has an exciting future ahead of it. So we are going to keep on keeping on, and we are going to continue on, starting with Shabbat Where You Are. Shabbarbecue and then Shabbat Where You Are. We have good stuff happening. So I hope that you'll continue on being as excited as I am for our community. With that, we are going to continue with some blessings, starting with family blessings. So I encourage you to reach out to those who you consider family, however you define it, nearby. And if you are not in the same space as somebody you consider family that you'd like to send this blessing to, let's hold those folks in our hearts as well, and we hope that they receive this blessing. May God bless you and keep you. May God shine God's face upon you and be gracious to you. May God's face turn to you and grant you peace, to which we say, Amen. And we continue on with blessings for Kiddush and Motzi. For our friends on Zoom, if you want to go grab some grape juice, you have about 2.5, maybe 3 seconds. We are on page 123 for the words of Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'atzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. L'chaim. And just a quick motzi. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. We are going to conclude with the words of Ki Eshmeira Shabbat, which are on page 129. Ki Eshmeira Shabbat, El Yishmereini. Ki Eshmeira Shabbat, El Yishmereini. Oti leomead, Eino Meini. Oti leomead, Eino Meini. Yeshmeira Shabbat, El Yishmereini. Yeshmeira Shabbat, El Yishmereini. Oti Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And Shabbat Shalom to our friends on Zoom and on live stream. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbat.